And we're back with the Coach's Corner on the Loan Officer Success Partner Network, proudly sponsored by Premier Lending. Hey, I'm Devin Dubuque.
And I'm Coach Rick Koenig.
Hey, together we're here to bring you strategies, insights, and the motivation you need to win in today's mortgage market. And let me tell you something. Today, we've got something special. I know, Coach, last time we kind of left off and said we were going to talk a little bit more about frequency of follow-through when making connections, but you just got back from somewhere pretty cool, and I think we just, we almost need to do one of these. Hold on, man. I'm definitely dropping the ball, but I think we can get it. MortgageCon. Man, brother, what happened? What happened out there?
Wow, MortgageCon 2025. It's only the second year for this this training session or coaching session or whatever you want to call it. They assembled some of the top speakers in the industry. I think there was like 12, 13 different speakers over 2 days. We heard from everybody from Barry Habib to Chris Vincent, Chris Welton. We heard from people from Go Coaching. We heard from Tammy Schneider, former Animal. And we also heard from industry experts on social media and marketing. And it was amazing. But the crazy thing was just the presentation, the actual show itself, the team that puts this together, it is one of the best presented shows I've ever been to. I've never seen anything. You can tell all the people involved used to be with Disney. These guys are creative, smart, and it was hard-hitting, impactful, and fast.
So a mortgage event that has special magic moments, right?
Well, I tell you what, they kicked it off with Barry Habib, and it was so good to see Barry. First of all, I haven't seen him in, almost 20 years since the two of us worked together back at GMAC. Yeah. And I reminded him about, going out to dinner here in Cincinnati with me while he was here. And he still thinks they're the best ribs in the country. But Barry jumped up on stage looking good, looking healthy with great news. He's been cancer-free now for about 30 days. Was the first, was his last test. So we were all just thrilled to death for him. But the good news he brought was, probably what a lot of us have heard. As he goes through and he breaks down all the numbers, the big thing for us is we're probably looking at throughout the year high fives, mid to low sixes, no crazy improvements. We're not looking at 4% and 3% interest rates, until they do something with the federal deficit and all kinds of other stuff. We'll probably never see rates that low again. But for every 0.5% that the interest rates go down, or every 1% drop, brings 5 million more buyers and borrowers into the marketplace. So what that
did you say 5 million?
Yeah, 5 million additional. So, one of the things that loan officers should learn is you got anybody hanging out there, that's a big stat to know, that if these rates do go down and they're waiting for rates to go down to buy their house, they now have, depending on their market area, hundreds of additional people going to be bidding on the same houses, because currently the number of homes for sale is like the lowest number in years and years. And I don't blame that on the old, low 3% rates. A lot of people, thought people my age would be selling our houses. There was going to be this silver tsunami where all these, why would people my age be selling their homes? A lot of our houses are paid off. We're like with me, I'm in a ranch. I don't need to move. So, the good news I got out of Barry's thing is rates are going to come down. But the news I have for people out there is buy now. Don't worry about what the rate is. You can always refinance down the road. Get into that house, because when rates go down and the number of people in the marketplace kicks up, so are the prices.
Well, I heard two things from you there, Coach, and one of them is buy now, and I'll talk a strategy on that here in a second, right? How to induce that conversation and bring that up in a very natural state, right? But the second one, and I think this is really important, is staying in touch with your sphere in general, right? Because you've got consumers out there, and some of them aren't moving forward because they are waiting for the old proverbial Well, when the rates get back to normal, well, the rates are normal, right? So let's talk about that. But, we will see some improvement at some point in time this year. But at the end of the day, you need to be in touch with them, because if 5 million people are coming back to the market, at the same time, well, guess what? If you're top of mind, you're also going to get them on that side of it too. So I think this is a 2-point strategy, right? The first point is, let's get them excited about getting in the market today. And let's talk about some bullet points that can make that happen, right? So number one, statistical data always works, right? When you're trying to help somebody understand, when the right time to move forward is, having statistics behind it definitely helps, right? So you talk about 5 million people coming to market all at the same time. Well, there's a really good way to kind of refresh people's memory there. Hey, remember during COVID, 2019, 2020, and then 2021, right? When everybody was in the market together, what happened to the prices of homes? Number one, they went up in value, but number two, people were building. So not only was the purchase price higher, but you had more people that were all trying to get the attention of the consumer. So you either had to put a substantial amount more money down over the top to win the bid, or you didn't get the house that you actually wanted, right? So buyers who are thinking about purchasing a home in general, right? The smarter buyer is buying now because they don't want to be in the middle of that bidding war, right? The other thing that we know, and this is where statistics come back into the fact, is that homes appreciate on average 5.5% every single year, right? Now we've had some affinity markets, right, where where we've seen 20% improvement, which is insane, but it's happened, right? Yep. I would have said that was not possible until I saw it myself, and we saw it, right? Now, do I expect to see that? No, but 5.5%. So let's talk about that. If you're a purchaser and you're looking at buying a home right now, right? Effectively, that house is going to be 5.5% cheaper than what it's going to cost you next year. And if you're purchasing right now, you're in a market where we are starting to see multiple bids in some markets, but you're in a market where a lot of the times the sellers they're ready to sell. So you can actually negotiate things, right? So instead of having to waive, the appraisal and, waive any contingency and, literally, sell your soul to buy the house, you can actually negotiate and get some potential financial incentives from the seller to purchase that home, and you get to buy the house you want, because you're not going to have these multiple bid situations where you got to take what's available. Because I can't tell you how many people I talked to that regretted making those decisions and now are living in a house that they feel they can't get out of because they've got a 2.5 or 3.25 interest rate on it, but they hate the home that they bought, right? So, the smart opportunity, and loan officers, think about this when you're talking to the clients. This is how you create that opportunity is, hey, I know that you were talking about wanting to wait until the rates come down, but let's talk about what that looks like. And let's talk about what smart clients are doing right now. And here's the statistics behind it. Let your home grow in equity while everybody else is buying at a higher price and already had the increase because of the market, but also multiple bids coming in where they're going to have to put more money over the top. Most importantly, you're just going to refinance. You get to buy low and then refinance.
It's as simple as, 5 million more people coming to the market, prices go up. If they're going up the average of 5%, you got a $400,000 home, you're going to get a $20,000 bump in your net worth in the first year. And if you have to pay 0.5% more, you're talking $30 per eighth. We're talking $120 more to buy that house today. So what if you buy that house and it takes a year or even 2 years before the rates go down? Take that 120, you multiply that out there by 24, it does not add up to $20,000 increase, jump in value. It's just not there. And even if it's a full percent right now, think about that. That's less than $250 a month. Now, I know for some people, $250 a month is the difference between affording it and not affording it if they're maxing out. But if they are not maxed out and they're shopping, and you can get into homes for less expensive. I think what happens is a lot of times we have first-time buyers right now that don't consider a multiple move over the next 10 years.
Right.
Back when I started buying a home, we lived in our first home 1.5 years. We thought we'd be there 3. We were in the second one 3. We thought we'd be there 5 or longer. The third one we were in for 5. We thought that was the house we were going to live in and pay off.
That's it.
We're two houses past that now, and yeah, the plan worked out. It's paid off, but we didn't go from that two-bedroom ranch or two-bedroom apartment to a two-bedroom ranch to where we are now without taking some steps. And so I think a lot of times, if they're really creative in what they're doing, teach your people how to look at a home that they could buy now.
Yep.
And maybe in a couple of years, they keep that home as rental property. It becomes a major asset. Real estate's the best way to grow wealth in this country. And look for your next house. But I think a lot of people go out there looking for their dream house the first time and don't think they'll ever move.
Yeah, message for the loan officers is make sure you're providing proper education to your consumers, right? When you're having those conversations to help move them off the fence, right? Because if you back it with statistical data, let's talk some statistics. So, Coach, when you bought the first house that you bought, what was the rate on that first home?
You're not going to believe me. It was 16.75% in 1983.
16.75%. Now, and I know your home's free and clear now, but when you paid that home off, what was your rate on the home at that point in time?
5.5, 6%.
Normal market.
Yeah.
Normal market, right?
A normal market rate. In 2012, whatever the market was then. And then, we just, we were up, do a shorter term and we paid it off quick.
And when you bought the house, what was the home worth?
Man, we did a 15% down, no PMI at 6.5% on a 3-year arm.
Yeah, but what was the actual? How much did you buy the house for? What was the purchase price?
Like 303.
303. What's it worth today?
Probably 8.
Yeah, $500,000. Man, I'll bet you're pretty disappointed for taking that 6% interest rate and gaining $800,000, right? Well, you paid 3, right?
Yeah.
Who's counting $500K, right? Made $500,000 on that. And let's talk about this too, Coach. Do you know that you may not even know this? What's the average home appreciation in year over year in Cincinnati? So from 2023 to 2024, what was the year over year appreciation? I'm sorry, 24 to 25. 24 to 25.
In the upper price ranges, I don't know. It seems like it's been fairly steady. Since 2021, we're in a market where it doesn't necessarily go up, 5, 8, 10% every year. But I would say we've been in that 5% range like the rest of the country.
So can I answer the question for you?
What's that?
According to Zillow, 7.7% from 2024 to 2025 year over year in Cincinnati. Right. So let's talk about that. Let's put that into perspective because we're talking to loan officers here and we're saying, hey, look, this is how you use that type of incentive, right? So basically, if a homeowner was looking at a home that was purchased at $400,000 last year and they waited at a 7.7% year over year increase in property values, it's an increase of $30,800. Yep. That's what they left off the table, waiting for a rate that never actually happened, right?
And paid rent to somebody else to pay off their mortgage for the last 12 months.
Exactly. So, so when you're looking for techniques on how to have those hard conversations that are not so hard, right? Look for statistics behind it. That's what's going to get you there. And it's going to find you more home sales because when you start to educate your agents and your borrowers, right? They're going to be happy that you did. Because ultimately, when they're taking that extra $30,800 to the bank next year, while everybody else is paying more for that same house, and they're refinancing and improving their interest rate, while everybody else is just getting the benefit of the interest rate at a higher price point, who's winning, right? Who's winning? So, those are things that are important. So Barry Habib had great stuff to say. Who else? What else did you learn at this MortgageCon event?
This was one of those ones where there was 4 or 5 speakers that came on who just engaged us to begin with emotionally with the story they told. And what I realized from that is we've talked about this before on going out and building relationships with real estate agents that if you know your origin story or your why, if you know why you're doing what you're doing, and it could just be the kids, I want to raise the kids, I want them to go to private school and to college and be debt free, when they graduate, that's a great why. But sometimes you have to go deeper with people. And some of the stories we heard were, literally, I saw every person in the place, including myself, with a tear running down our cheek. But the end to every story was if you have that origin story and you have your why, and you're able to talk about it, you can get, and when you get a real estate agent to give you their why, or you can talk them into talking their why through. Maybe they've never talked about it with anybody.
Yeah.
You build an emotional bond that's more than just a business bond. You also now have a friend, and there's nothing like doing business with a friend. And so, although it's hard out there right now, you need to make the calls. All it takes is that one call where they go, "Wow, I really like I like your story. I like what you're talking about. Yeah, I'd love to meet with you and help you and see what teach you the knowledge that I have."
Well, that goes back to one of the questions I love to ask. And I ask it for exactly that reason, because it gets a really emotional response. I just did it earlier today. I was on a call with a great agent in Des Moines, Iowa, and 35 transactions over the last 12 months. Never spoke to him before. It's the first time that we had a conversation. We really hit it off well. And by the end of the call, we were talking referrals and working together and partnering up. And the question that I asked was, hey, Rick, if you could take a time machine back to when you first got in this industry and you were just getting started and you helped this client and this happened and you said, this is why I'm in this industry. This is what I'm doing it for, right? What was that moment, right? Let me tell you something. Yep. He paused, took him about 10 seconds, maybe 10 seconds of dead air, right? And it was a very emotional, thought through response. And it was, I had this customer who was looking to purchase a home, and she wanted to buy, her mother had passed, and their home was the one that was always there for gatherings. And it was really important for her to find a home that had a big kitchen, it had a big living room, that were all connected together so that family could come and spend time together. And he said over their process of looking for homes, she started to kind of lose sight of that vision, was almost putting in offers or about to put in offers on homes that just didn't fit that bill, right? And he said a couple of times he had to stop her and say, hey, this is not your dream, right? This isn't what you want. And he said that finally they found this property and they're standing in the kitchen and he's looking around the room with her. And he said, this is your vision. This is where you're going to have your gatherings, right? This is where you're going to bring your families together. And they had an emotional moment together, right? And she bought that home. And that became his number one. It wasn't the biggest house he sold, right? It was the fact that he was able to bring that to her, and now she gets to share those memories with her families. But guess what? Now he's told that story to me, and he's had an emotional response, right? And now we're bonded together, right? So whenever he tells that story now, who's he thinking about? He's thinking about me.
You.
Yeah. and that's what we're talking about, right? That's what we're talking about. So, if you're looking for success techniques, this is the kind of stuff that Coach is talking about. The why and the story, these are the things that bring people together and start building that bond. By the end of the call, it was, man, why are we not working together, Tom? I'd love to do some business with you. Who do you have right now? And, we're talking about future partnerships together. I think it's great. So, and we're doing a podcast, right? We're going to do a podcast. So if you want to watch that one, come on over to the Real Estate Success Partner podcast. I think we're going to shoot that one next week, which would be the 28th of February, air probably somewhere around the first week of March. So if you want to see how those connections are made and how we're doing that, come visit us at the Real Estate Success Partner. That's part of the Premier Lending suite of podcasts that we're bringing to you. But Coach, I think we've covered as much as we can today. What do you think? Do we save the rest for next time?
Oh yeah, by introducing these realtors to our team and letting them know how we'll put their message out there through one of our podcasts. It's unique. Not a lot of lenders are doing it. And I think what we'll need to get into is a little bit more in depth on what some of those speakers talked about, whether it was marketing or whether it was social media or whatever. I'd like to pass on some of that information because really good stuff happened. Faris Faraj, the owner of Premier Lending, was with me, and we had a great time down there together, just as a team, but we also learned a lot of stuff, and some of it you just have to digest. In fact, I have to go back and look at all my notes. I got 11 pages of notes. digest so that I can remember everything.
Yeah,
I'm getting old, man. I'm not like you young guys.
We'll bring the notes to the next one because inquiring minds want to know. Let's leave them one more nugget before we drop off. Again, talking to another great person and listen to them speak. Dave Savage, you guys probably know who he is, but more than me, right? You're listening to our show, but you probably know him more than me. He said, the 100% challenge. Challenge yourself to reach out to 100 people. His was in a day. He got through 81 people in one day. Look for people that have the most influence that not people you don't know. In this case, you're reaching out to people that you do know. And the ask is this, right? Hey, coach, I love you, but I got to ask you a question. Who do you know in your network that I should be talking to that would benefit from what I do? And that one's a little scary, right? But guess what? We have a second part of that response. And how can I help you? What can I do for you today? And be prepared.
Leave it there today, man. And let's pick it up back there next week. And what we'll do next week is we will take that thought and then add to it a couple more nuggets that I can add to it.
I love it. I love it. Well, I guess this is it for today. So this is the Coach's Corner. I'm Devin Dubuque.
I'm Coach Rick.
And we're going to see you guys on the next one. Hey, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to be on a show as a guest, we would love to have you here. We love to share insights from our fellow peers in this industry. And make sure you comment. If there's a topic that's really important to you, we're here for you. Or just jump right on the schedule. We'll make sure we throw a link in there. We're always here to help our friends in the industry. Until the next time, we'll see you then.